Before UCaaS, there was a company doing UCaaS, we just didn't know it. And that's why I am so happy to be sitting across from Mr. Kenny Wyatt. He's the Chief Revenue Officer of Vonage. Kenny, thank you for taking time to speak with us.
Great to be here, great show so far.
We all know the Vonage story. The catchy commercials, the service that people didn't know was actually possible. You grew up from being a consumer juggernaut to being an enterprise juggernaut. Can you tell me about this last year with Vonage serving out to large enterprise UCaaS?
Yeah, so 2017 was interesting because it was the first time in our company's history where business actually overtook, from a growth perspective, the consumer side. And so the same way we disrupted the consumer business years ago, you're now seeing us disrupt in a big way across all segments of business, the B2B space. And we're really excited about the adoption we're seeing, we're really excited about the customers we're onboarding and the growth that we're seeing in the marketplace.
What I love to see, and this is my favorite part of the Vonage story, is so many of the features that are being touted by the vendors here on the floor were things that Vonage was doing before we actually called them by those names.
That's right, that's right. I mean, the perfect example of that is, we built a platform, a microservices platform, organically as well as through acquisition, that's doing, through APIs, a lot of the things that you're seeing here at the show. And it's incredible. It's actually, it's fantastic to see the industry really moving in that direction. Moving not only obviously heavy into cloud, but more importantly using software as a tool to improve, for instance, customer experience through light APIs all the way to a SaaS solution such as UCaaS. So it's extremely exciting to see the energy around platforms, around APIs at this year's EC.
As you mentioned, this was the year that Vonage's business side overtook its consumer side.
Correct.
What is the difference between serving the business, the enterprise customer, and the small end user?
Yeah, I mean, it is incredibly different. As you can imagine, a micro company, a 1 to 9, for instance, company, has different needs, not only from a features, but also from a support ecosystem perspective than does a large enterprise. And we serve all of them, right? In fact, we're in the middle of turning up what we believe is the largest unified communication deal in the industry, even as we speak. And it's, it has global reach, it has, obviously multiple thousand users. And so the complexity that goes into not only the installation piece of it, but also the support infrastructure is quite different. And the good news is we've invested heavily in all segments to make sure we can provide the most outstanding customer experience in the industry around it.
You've spoken a little bit about those future developments. I'm not going to ask you about the deal because I know you can't talk about it, but I do want to ask about verticals. One of the defining functions of a lot of these vendors is to serve the vertical market, right, because they see growth there.
Right.
What is Vonage doing to get into those verticals, and what verticals are you most interested in?
Yeah, instead of going deep in every single vertical, let me give you one example, because we're serving a multitude of verticals. To your point, the way that you improve customer experience using, for instance, embedding communications, is to go after how a vertical speaks, how they serve their own customer, what services they want to provide to improve their own customer experience. DHL is a perfect example. DHL, as we know, is a very large transportation parcel delivery service. We are using embedded APIs through the customer experience of DHL to improve their service. So, for instance, in Europe, it's all cash on delivery. It's very important to make sure that you've got the customer there when the driver shows up with the parcel. So we're using text, SMS, obviously, to engage with the customer prior to delivery. Guess what? If they don't answer inside of 20 minutes, we're doing a text-to-speech call to make sure that we are engaging. And if that still doesn't work, then we're launching a voice call that interacts back with their CRM to make sure that we are putting driver and customer there at the same time. And what is it doing? It's improving customer experience, but it's also improving, obviously, their cost structure because they're much more efficient from a delivery perspective. It's one example of many about how we're taking our APIs, for instance, off the platform and creating a vertical experience, in this case around transportation, to better their customer experience.
One of the trends that we've seen at this show is this idea of using UC and the intelligence you get from UC to improve your business practices. Right. And the DHL example, I think, is a great example of that, in which I'm using a piece of technology to make sure that the customer experience is good, but at the same time, it also gives the company, the client, the ability to say, this is working, this is not.
Correct.
People are happy when we do this, they're upset when we do that.
That's right.
That's the kind of business intelligence that I think is most actionable in today's customer-oriented market.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the platforms that we built, both on the CPaaS as well as the UCaaS side, and as those come together, it really is all about improving business outcomes for our customer. Because at the end of the day, if you're not helping employees be more productive through embedded communication, if you're not helping customers have a better experience with the logo, then you're not adding a ton of value to the equation. And that's the business that we're in, is improving outcomes of our customers.
We've talked a little bit about Vonage's past. You've talked a little bit about Vonage's present. I want to talk a little bit about Vonage's future. You've made some noticeable acquisitions, and you've added to the Vonage feature set through those acquisitions.
Correct.
Are there any pieces that you think need to be strengthened? Is there anything in the Vonage pie that you think might benefit from an acquisition or two? And when might we start to hear about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're a public company, so we're not going to talk about our acquisition strategy. But what I'll tell you is, we are doing fantastic from an organic growth perspective, but we're always looking for the opportunities to do a tuck-in around a product, for instance, or to build scale around a market. That's always a possibility, and you've seen that history in our past. We've been very acquisitive, and we'll continue to be so.
We have been speaking with Kenny Wyatt. He is the Chief Revenue Officer at Vonage. Kenny, thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you.
If you could please tell our audience where they can find you, where they can find Vonage, where they can find out what you might be able to do for their next deployment.
Absolutely. Catch us at Vonage.com, and really any social media outlet that you would like to use, you can also catch us there. We look forward to seeing you as a customer soon.
Kenny, thanks again, and thanks to you for watching. Be sure to check out all the videos from Enterprise Connect. I'm Father Robert Ballecer, the Digital Jesuit. Stay tapped.